nice cup of coffee, and hope you can enjoy it while we're visiting. So as we said, now we are still going to handle questions. So we have actually a great participation. So we have several questions to sort of work our way through. But before we get to those questions, I want to just talk a little bit about church and what's going on at church and so on, because we want to take advantage of this time as just sort of a living room to living room kind of time to catch you up on what's going on. And by the way, you can certainly send in questions or make comments on our Facebook Live in order to ask a question about that as well, not just about the messages, but about anything that's going on. So feel free to contact us and let us know if there's anything on your mind. Today there were two things, so we'll just kind of go over them briefly. One is that we are inviting the current elders to continue as elders rather than rotating off as they normally would, or at least a third of them, 3 of them would normally rotate off, and then you'd rotate 3 more in. And really that's for 2 reasons. One is just that it's hard to vote right now with quarantine and separation and everything. We are working on a mechanism to do that, but it's not easy. But more importantly, really, the fact is that we're working together toward a more biblical, intentional model of eldership, and so it seemed to make sense to not start back at square one and kind of bring on new people to talk through that, but rather just to work through that together until we accomplish that goal, and so that's why we're doing it that way. And thankfully, the bylaws actually allow for us to. They provide opportunity for us to do that, so it gives us that flexibility, which we're thankful for. Second thing is the Care Partners. So here's my t-shirt for Care Partners, and you can get one too when you sign up to be a Care Partner. But more importantly, really, we just feel like it's so important to connect and just intentionally connect during this time. I was talking to someone after services. Actually, several people were there for the first time today, which was neat in the worship service. And they were talking about how it's been 8 months since they had been in the building and seen people and worship together, and it makes a huge difference to be able to connect. Just see somebody, talk to somebody, even if it's on the phone, just talk to them and say, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? So I'm really excited about this opportunity. The nice thing is hopefully it'll get down to the very grassroots of the grassroots and really give an opportunity for everybody to really have some accountability, some encouragement, some connectedness even during these crazy times. So any thoughts on the Care Partner initiative? So yeah, just hope that you'll contact us and let us know, even if you're already signed up or if you plan to sign up, either one. If you're interested in signing up and don't know who to sign up with, any of those things, let us know. And it would be wonderful if the next time that we're together, Pastor Derek was saying this to me, and it really cast a sweet vision of it, as if next Vision Sunday or whenever we're able to all be together, if everybody was able to be wearing these t-shirts, because we've all been connected throughout the congregation. That would be a sweet thing, and just a sweet visual image of what we're trying to accomplish. So well, any questions about elders or about the Care Partners? Again, with the Care Partners, please contact the church office in order. That's how you sort of take the first step there. Just contact the church office, email info@morningstarfellowship.ca, info@morningstarfellowship.ca, or call the office on the phone. Just let them know you're interested, and we'll get you signed up. So looking forward to that. Okay. Question-wise, is there any questions or comments so far on that?
There are, but
not related to that, or
not related to that. And then you sent me 2. Is that right?
I think at least, yeah.
Okay.
So all right, so we'll get started on the questions, which is fun.
You sent me 2, and then it looks like you have one there. So
Yep.
Okay, so first one is, I attend church regularly at Morningstar, but since COVID-19 hit, haven't been there. All is well. We are spirit beings. We possess a soul and live in a physical body. Is this a correct statement? If not, please explain.
Did it say we're spiritual beings? Is that what it said?
Spirit beings, it
Oh.
says.
Yeah, so the question is, are we spiritual beings who, live in a body? Is that how it's put, or?
We possess a soul and live in a physical body. Is this a correct
Okay.
statement?
Yeah. I would want to be really careful about that because you probably don't know this, but it actually was a early church heresy that was happening even during the New Testament. That's part of why some of the letters are written. That there was the heresy that only the spiritual matters and the physical doesn't. In fact, the physical is even evil, and so because of that. It led to a heresy in relation to Jesus, because if the physical is evil, then Jesus couldn't have been physical, and so therefore, Jesus must have just been sort of a spirit walking around without a body. And so God has made us in His image, and that is spiritual and physical is the only way I know how to put it, in the sense that God is not physical, but God has made us to be both spiritual and physical beings, and now His own Son is spiritual and physical for all eternity. So, it's not as if we're merely spiritual. I just want to be careful that we don't put it that way, as if we're only spiritual or the spirit is all that matters. What we do with our body matters, right? So we're not just spirits in a body walking around, but our body is connected to our soul. So C.S. Lewis, for instance, put it this way, that if when your body gets on its knees, it helps your soul get on its knees, right? You're connected in this way. But also it's true that Jesus did say, "Don't fear those who can only destroy the body, people who can kill you, but fear Him who can destroy both soul and body in hell." So it's not. So yes, there is an aspect to, of course, our physical presence here that somebody can affect, even by persecuting or killing us. But even there, Jesus ultimately redeems both soul and body. So yes, we are absent from the body, present with the Lord. But when Jesus comes back, guess what happens? All our bodies get resurrected, and we get new glorified bodies. So we will be spiritual, physical beings for all eternity. So it's not as if the spiritual is all that matters, but yes, we are spiritual beings with bodies that are part of our being. So I hope that's helpful. Hopefully that strikes the right balance and answers the question. Go ahead.
Okay, so close that one. Another question. When it comes to serving others in need, some people on the receiving end are embarrassed when they receive charity or offers of help from other church members. The fear of being pitied or seen as needy, and keep their problems to themselves. How do we respond to this? How do we help them see that receiving help is not an act of weakness, but rather an opportunity to allow Christians to demonstrate the love of Christ?
That's a great question. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's important that, especially during this COVID thing, and people are disconnected, and we're even talking about, that's one of the motivations for Care Partners, is to ask, is there anything we can pray for you about? And it's important to be transparent with one another, to let each other know how are we really doing. And that includes talking about the spiritual and physical, that includes the spiritual and the physical. So, the fact is, if you have physical needs, then not everything about you is going well. So you need to communicate that and share that prayer request. And if you have spiritual needs, it doesn't matter how well you're doing physically, you're not doing well. So you need to share those prayer requests. So I really appreciate the reminder that a lot of times we don't want to accept help, and it's not just physical help, although that can be a sort of human dignity, pride thing. Maybe good in some ways, but definitely unhealthy if it means that we can't admit to other people that we have needs, because the fact is doesn't matter who you are, you may have needs. People will have needs at different times, and this may be your time for the body to
It's
minister
my
to
time.
you. Yeah.
I'm feeling discouraged today.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. And so, yeah, you may have needs. It may be spiritual, maybe emotional, maybe physical, but being transparent is a crucial part of being real and allowing other people in. And so, a lot of times, our disconnectedness is as much a factor of ourselves, or more so, than even other people who might want to connect and help and encourage. So, I appreciate the question because makes a great point that it's part of the body being able to minister and do its job for us to be transparent with each other in every way, spiritual, physical, mental, whatever the needs are. Any other? What's the?
I have more, but you have one. Do you want to answer yours? Or you want me to give you?
Go ahead and go to. I think there are two in that email. So.
Oh, I closed it.
Well, I'll do this one while you pull that one up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So this one is related to Esther, in the chapter we were just looking at, and it is a question about the Jews killing and destroying their enemies, which takes place, which is decreed in chapter 8, but takes place in chapter 9, and we certainly will need to deal with that when we get there. I had some stuff in my notes today, but I just ran out of time, so I didn't even try to tackle this. But it's a great question. Why is it okay for the Jewish people to kill all these other people? It's important to, several pieces of this are important to think about. One is murder is never condoned. Murder being defined as killing an innocent person on your own. Like, I decide to kill that person. That's one of the 10 commandments. Commandment number 6, thou shalt not murder. So that's never condoned in Scripture.
Even murdering somebody that isn't innocent.
Well, no, but the point of murder is that it's an innocent person. So you are not ever allowed to kill personally another person who's innocent. However, of course, the Bible does give the power of the sword to the government. So, for instance, throughout a lot of the Old Testament laws have to do with this, that if this person does this, then they are to be put to death. That's not killing. That's not, God is not turning around and disobeying His own command there. He's giving the power of justice to the government. And so He's saying, in order to keep society right and keep people from doing wrong things, there has to be punishment, and some of that punishment, depending on how bad the crime is, may be taking someone's life because they've taken someone else's life. So that's an element of it, is the governmental aspect. But another thing is that God, even though it never condones murder, the Bible does condone justice and self-defense, both of those. And that's actually what's happening here in the book of Esther. Is the Jewish people are allowed to kill and annihilate. I think it even uses all the same language as the original decree against them, as you're allowed to kill and annihilate and whatever, anyone who attacks you. And so in a sense it's self-defense, but in another sense it is God giving the power of the sword to the Jewish people as a nation to say, you can conquer your enemies, you can bring justice to bear in this situation. So it's not at all the same as an individual going out and just choosing an innocent person and killing that person. There's a commandment against that.
A person, though, is what I'm saying. Like, it's not just innocence, because like somebody could kill you and it wouldn't be like, I can't just go and kill them,
Right, that's what I'm saying. The power of the sword given to the government, and at the same time also the importance of innocence and guilty. These people are guilty because they are they're trying to kill the Jews. So those are the two main key points there. This is not seeing the Jesus of the Bible and wanting to be transformed like that themselves. Okay. It's not an easy question. I mean, it's a good question, but it's one that, the examples are, in some ways, are so many, you hardly know how to pick one. But the fact is we do that anytime that we are putting our own preferences, our own comfort, our own ideas about right and wrong, our own ideas about society, our own ideas about morality, any of those things. in any way that we basically say, well, this is the way things ought to be, and so then we say, and Jesus must be in favor of that, as opposed to saying, Jesus, what do you want me to do? And it may cost me everything. Those are two very different kinds of approaches toward Jesus. So it's a great question, and I hope that at least approaches an answer, because it's really any time, and we all wrestle with this to some degree, but certainly we can take it further or to further degrees than others, but it really is any time that we are taking our own ideas, our own concepts, and a lot of times, these are not really original with us. The culture or society is telling us this is fine. It doesn't matter if you do this, and the Bible says that's sin. But we reason it out some way and say, oh, it doesn't really matter because I'm sure God would understand. Or even just as simple as not something wrong that the Bible's, saying, thou shalt not do so-and-so, but even just a sense of priorities. And that's really what I was getting at in the message today, where, our priority can be to hoard up God's blessings. And of course, it's appropriate to be thankful for God's blessings, but it's a different thing to basically say, I can't sacrifice because I wouldn't want to be a bad steward of these blessings that God's given me. And when we do that, and we really have a tendency to do that in the West, when we do that, what we end up doing is we end up sacrificing the real Jesus on the altar of our own comfort and desires. So, great question. Thank you for following up on that.
Do you think that we should wish people happy, I'm not sure how to say it, Diwali?
I'm not sure.
If they first wish to say this greeting to us, yes, no, or why? That's the holiday.
I'm guessing like it's
it's a Hindu holiday.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
Yeah.
That's a great question. And the answer is no. That doesn't mean that you have to be unkind to someone or be rude to someone. But it's like, a similar way of maybe putting it would be to say, if somebody says, as a Hindu or as a Muslim, can I pray for you? It would be completely inappropriate for you to say, yes, please pray to your God for this need. That's explicitly what the problem of idolatry and worshiping false gods is, exactly what God condemns over and over and over again in the Old Testament. And in fact, with one of the Old Testament kings who seeks out the prophet of another god in order to get the answer he wants, God sends his real prophet to say, am I not the real God? Why would you be talking to any other God? And so it's very similar it's a very similar problem with wishing someone a happy pagan holiday. You're in effect saying, let's celebrate the wrong ideas about God, rather than saying, let us let us share with you the one true and living God. So it's an understandably difficult situation, but Christians have been bold for generations. And remember, one of the reasons that Roman persecution came on the church was not because Christians believed in God. Romans believed in tons of gods, but the problem was that they said that there was only one God. The Romans would have been happy to just add the Christian God to all their pantheon of gods and just say, yeah, sure, worship him and all these other gods. But the problem was that the Christians were saying, no, there's only one God. And so that's always been the issue. That's why it's the number one command, is there is one God and you shall have no other gods before him.
So before you go further, we have a comment that answers this. That's a different answer.
Okay.
But you might, but I like the spirit of the answer, so maybe you can give a way of present. And I'll try to talk louder. Sorry, Dennis. It says, growing up in India, we had friends and neighbors from all different religions and religious backgrounds, and we wished everyone for their festivals, Diwali, Holi, Eid, etc., and they wished us back for Easter and Christmas, and we even celebrated with us. I feel there is no harm in wishing someone for their festivals, this can bring us closer to them and in turn give us the opportunity to share and witness.
I appreciate the spirit of it, and that's exactly what I was just saying. You do have to be careful because you're not wanting to give unnecessary offense. But there is the offense of the gospel. And the offense of the gospel is there's one God, and so therefore holidays that are celebrating other gods are not to be celebrated by Christians. And so there is a way to wish someone well. There is a way to bless them in God's name. You can be kind, you can be loving, you can, do all these things, but it's not the same as celebrating someone else's pagan holiday or celebrating a pagan god. So
you might say to them, hope they say Happy Diwali, and you might say back,
you can thank them for one thing. Thank you for your kind wishes.
Hope you enjoy a wonderful day with your family, or
that's all. Those are all kind, appropriate things. Again, you can say kind things, and this is not just pure legalism. Again, it comes down to.
I'm just trying to.
No, yeah. It comes down to the very real thing of, is God the only God, and is that our message, or is our message? Yes, of course, it makes sense that a Hindu would be able to tell you happy whatever because they believe in a million gods, right? So, and the same thing be even true of a Muslim, that they believe Jesus is a great prophet. So, it makes sense. The problem is, for Christians, we do have an offensive message. We are to share it in as gracious a way as possible, but we have a message. If we try to get around the offense of the message by compromising the message, that's the wrong kind of lack of offense. There is an offense that comes purely by speaking the truth in love. Even it has to be in love, but you must ultimately speak the truth. The fact is, Jesus would not wish someone a happy pagan holiday. He would tell them it lovingly, but he would tell them the truth about the true God. That's the only loving thing you can do to anyone, ultimately. So.
Yeah, I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one can
there you
to
go.
me but by the.
And it was just but of course that was just as repulsive in Jesus' day as it is now. That's why he said, people hate me, and they'll hate you too.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we are hateful toward other people, but it's not an easy message to share.
Okay, here's another one. As someone involved in disciple ministry, I have personally observed in a significant way discipleship is still viewed as specific ministry and not as an organic way of the Christian life. While there is a need for different ministries, discipleship should be the bridge that connects all ministries. Biblical learning, studies, objectives is not only for self-growth, but for replication with others in the body and our community, thus collectively obeying the Great Commission.
Was that a question?
No, it's just a really lovely observation for all of us to benefit from.
I appreciate the observation. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure if I missed a question in there. Go ahead.
I don't think so. Sometimes it puts them out of order, but perhaps a reply to something that we said. Okay. Keeps moving around. Good afternoon. It would seem natural that the Jews would defend themselves without having a decree to have to do so. What made the decree more than an apparent statement of the obvious?
Well, it's the difference between having the king behind you or against you, and with one, it was giving permission for people to annihilate the Jews, and so presumably the king and all his forces would be working on behalf of the attackers. In this case, the king and all his might is working on behalf of the defenders. And so, so it results in a very different kind of situation, because it's not just a matter of mere permission; it's a matter of the king being for you or against you in your effort. So, good question. That's helpful.
Who wrote Esther?
Don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, don't know. There's speculation, including Mordecai as one guess, but the Bible doesn't say, and so ultimately we're left to some. Not just the Bible doesn't say, but also not even a strong tradition or something says.
Yeah.
So there's not a strong leaning, at least on my part, regarding who the author is. But good question as well. Yeah.
There aren't any more questions right
All right.
now, but
Yeah.
there may be some. We have a couple more minutes.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you, by the way, for sending in questions. And just as an additional note, if you haven't, if you've been watching but didn't catch this, we invite you to send in questions by Facebook. If you're watching online, that's just the easiest way to do it because it allows us to see it immediately. But another way, if you're not on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube or through the app or on the website or whatever, another way to send in a question is to send it to my email directly. So justin.huffman@morningstarfellowship.ca. Justin.huffman. So
That's been actually nice because it
Yeah.
gives a little time to. There's a lag, and so of course we're doing the sort of what's going on first. But even still, it's nice to have that buffer questions in there before
Very
other
nice,
questions come in.
Yep, and so feel free to do that. Feel free to,
Yeah.
email a question in, and feel free, of course, also if you're on Facebook to ask a question through the comments. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll leave it at that, and hope you have a super blessed day, and look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you next Sunday, Lord willing. And I'm going to go get some coffee now, so God bless. Bye-bye.